Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and about 2 months ago I made a video where I proclaimed I was no longer going to be purchasing extremely high-end custom shop level American guitars new and also Paul Reed Smith core because I had found two brands in particular, Momose and 77 Guitars, both made by Divisor in Nagano, Japan, that I feel are incredible guitars at a much more competitive price when purchasing used. However, in the comment section of that video and several other follow-up videos, I got called out a little bit, and honestly, I think it's pretty fair. How can I not make a comparison, like for like, of a 77 versus a Gibson or a Momose versus a Fender and just blanket statement and just hope you take my word for it? Not that it matters. I don't get paid for any of this anyway. This is all out of my own pocket. But I've never owned a Gibson ES-335. I've had a 339, never a 335. So I decided to try out the Gibson demo shop where you could get guitars like this for substantially less than the new retail pricing. This is a 2022 335 gloss nitro finish with the color being called Deep Purple. Now the first thing we're going to do is take a quick look at this guitar up close on the bench. I want you to get an idea for what you could actually expect from this color, Deep Purple, in person. I'm not going to use any color correction or any of that on this specific video. And also, I don't need to go over a whole ton. This guitar has been plecked already by Gibson, as well as the other information that I would really be interested in. The thickness at the 1st and the 12th fret was provided to me. However, what we will be doing is we're going to be checking Gibson's work. This sheet was provided in the actual case it came with, and it goes over all of the blemishes and imperfections on the guitar. We're going to be seeing if there's any additional ones or if they're really that bad at all, because this guitar was labeled as fair. And after that, we'll get into some sound samples and then my overall thoughts on the guitar itself. So let's get to it. All right, so we got our Gibson evaluation sheet for this guitar. The first thing we're going to be looking at is the top. It says light scuffs near bottom edge, scratches near the F hole on the bass side. So let's get into that. We do have numerous scratches on this guitar surface level. It's nothing really all that surprising, but yeah, right there you can see it. Can I feel it? Very slightly. There is a bit of a bigger scratch that extends right there out of the F-hole, but really it's not a real structural damage. It's more of in the top coat. I'm really not too concerned about it. But while we're on the front, before we go any further, I'm going to address the color of this guitar. They called it Deep Purple. It's a little bit more navy 90% of the time. When you don't have lights really shining right on it, where you don't have direct sunlight hitting the guitar, it can also pass as black, quite frankly. And I don't think it's a bad thing. If you're somebody that wanted something a little bit more bold of a purple, I could see why you might have been disappointed with this finish from Gibson. But as a whole, I actually rather like it. I think it's quite classy indeed. And just real quick while we're here, the pickups that come stock are the calibrated T-types, ABR1 style bridge, then you have a stop tail piece, and very traditional electronics, no push-pulls or any kind of funny business. This is just straight up old school vibes. Now the last thing we're going to go over condition-wise is the binding, which received the lowest score on the evaluation sheet. Out of a total of possible 5 points, it only received 3.5. As you can see, there are several different instances of both paint bleed, a little bit of kind of scratches around, especially near the neck joints of both the guitars. You can see a little bit of the blue popping through at other various points, but these were well documented by Gibson, so it's not like I bought a brand new guitar that came with this. I got this knowing exactly what I was getting into, and sitting and actually playing this guitar, because I have played it quite a bit since I've gotten it, I can't say that I feel any of it when I'm playing it, so this is all strictly cosmetic. And finally, before we get into sitting down and starting to play this thing, I did want to mention the actual specs of the neck. Some people are very interested in that kind of thing. At the 1st fret, it is 0.905. At the 12th fret, it is 0.990. Now I realize we didn't spend as much time on the previous segment where we put the guitar under the microscope. Typically, we go over it with a much more fine-toothed comb. However, because this guitar was in the demo shop and it was already labeled as fair, I just wanted to provide you with an example of what you could potentially expect if you were looking to buy a guitar from Gibson's demo shop as far as, the condition of a fair instrument. To me, I definitely would not class this as fair. It does have imperfections on it, but there are many guitars listed on Reverb that has no business being listed as mint, very good, or excellent, and this guitar, in my opinion, would fall under the very good category. But that being said, it's all about how does it feel and how does it sound. For today's demo, we're going to be using the Victory V40 Deluxe Combo, mic'd up by the SM57. We will be using the Benson preamp as well as, very appropriately, the Love Pedal Purple Plexi for our driven sounds, and a splash of the Strymon Volante straight into the Universal Apollo into Pro Tools. So let's hear it. Now I'm going to level with you guys. I'm not basing the opinion that you're going to hear right now entirely on the sound clips that you just heard. I've been playing this guitar through all three of the amps behind me for the last week whenever I've had the opportunity to do so. This guitar really exceeded my expectations for a few reasons. The first is I wasn't expecting it to come in this good of playing condition. This guitar is still set up. I have not changed anything from how this came out of the box. I literally tuned the guitar and started to play. That's it. This guitar had a lights out setup on it, and I was extremely impressed and gracious for that. That is not always the case, and it doesn't matter what the brand is. And for Gibson to get that right, hats off. Really great job. Second thing that really impressed me with this guitar has to be these calibrated T-type pickups. They sounded amazing, both clean and with gain on them. It has a real sweetness to them, clean. Sometimes with bigger semi-hollow body guitars, it can sound a little bit dull or dark. You can always alter that with amp settings or an EQ pedal, but really, naturally, this guitar just has a chime to it that reminds me of my other favorite guitar of all time, which maybe we'll do a comparison of those at some point. Finally, the last major pro to me has to be this neck. I love the rounded C. I loved it on the Gibson ES-335, and I love it even more on this one because it's even beefier. Really comfortable. If you're somebody that is a fan of bigger necks, this is going to be right up your alley. It plays so smooth. It was intonated perfectly, stayed in tune fantastic. I was hammering on this thing while me and my wife were jamming out earlier today, and I didn't have to tune it once. So obviously the nut was filed absolutely perfectly also. I'm surprised. I really am very surprised with how much I've taken to this guitar. Now, I think it's fair to say of the big three manufacturers of guitars in the United States, Gibson doesn't have the most pristine reputation when it comes to the actual little details, such as the quality control, the binding not being perfectly done, little paint issues, little cracks here and there, what have you. But I will say this about a Gibson guitar. When it's done right and the playability is there's nothing like it. These guitars, when they really nail it, and maybe I just got super duper lucky on this one, but man, it's fantastic and there's not much like it. I really was surprised with this instrument in the best possible way, and I've been smiling ever since when I've been picking this guitar up, and it kind of rubs off in my playing as well, which is extremely important when you're trying to be creative. So there are a few other things I'd like to tie up here. First being, I would highly recommend the Gibson demo shop because it wasn't an insignificant amount of money that was saved. If you buy this guitar on the actual Gibson website, it was $3,300, $32.99, I believe. And on the Gibson demo shop, it was $24.99. So if you're somebody who does want a Gibson guitar, but the price, understandably so, is a little bit intimidating to you, this is a good alternative to get one that, albeit, is never going to be a perfect showpiece, but potentially could be one hell of a great guitar for you to actually, play. Second thing I'd like to get into. There's no way, Jim, that you, somebody who is not a sponsored YouTuber, not fed all of these things, not paid the big bucks to sit here and shill any given guitar brand to you guys, why did you really buy this guitar outside of the comparison? Because there's no way that I just bought this guitar for the comparison. And I'm going to be completely transparent and honest with you. If you made it this far into the video, odds are you're somebody that watches a lot of these videos, and I appreciate you for that. So I'll let you in on inside baseball. The Dove. My father bought me that guitar when I was going through a really bad time, and I'm not an acoustic guitar player, but I really believe that's one of the best guitars I've ever owned, and I've always wanted a guitar that reminded me of it. Not necessarily in how it felt exactly, but gave me the same kind of vibe to it, and I've never found it. Not even the ES-339 gave it to me. This is the first one that really does remind me of this guitar, and it means so much to me because my dad is the only person who, thick and through thin, for the entirety of my life has supported me as far as achieving and searching out my goals and trying to find a way to make a living doing music. And this guitar is always going to remind me of him, just like the Dove always reminds me of him. One of his favorite guitarists of all time, Roy Orbison, he played 335s as well, so I think it's absolutely fitting in that sense. And I'll leave you with this. I know a lot of people are going to be curious, well, why aren't you talking about how this is against the 77? You rave about the 77 guitar. Why not get into that now? Because that deserves its own full video. So next week, hopefully next week, we'll be going into that and going through the finer points and really doing just as honest of a comparison as possible. But I ask you in the comments down below, do you have a preference on which amplifier we use for that, between the Victory, the Tone King, or the Friedman, or maybe a combination of both? If there's a certain kind of sound from each amp you'd like me to do. Honestly, I have so much fun playing both of these guitars. To hell with it. I'll do it if you really want to see it. So let me know in the comments down below. And wrapping things up, thank you. Thank you for making it this far into the video. Thank you for supporting me on this channel and on my journey going through all of this stuff. And really, I think I'm nearing an end to a certain chapter of this, but not ending YouTube entirely. That's, and again, something else for a different video. I appreciate every one of you. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And don't forget, go play your guitars, have some fun, close the internet, enjoy life. Take it easy, everybody.